So, perfect. So welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're pleased to host this webinar, which is called What is Winning? And it's a motivational strategy charitable webinar. And it's been an idea of us, We Are HR, for a little while, because I felt that my learners and myself needed a bit more motivation. And I thought this would be a wonderful opportunity for us to spread that love and care that we have in my company to our learners and the people that are following us, alongside for this important charitable cause. And we are in partnership with Imperial Health Charity, and the proceeds for the ticket sales goes towards St Mary's NHS Trust, and we are matching the proceeds. So the reason why I chose this particular charity is because a very dear friend of mine's son was admitted to St Mary's Hospital because he is suffering from a very rare condition called black diamond anemia. And this is a very rare condition, and it meant that he was hospitalized for quite a while. And, you know, of course, the health care from St Mary's was very important for him in his recovery. And I would like to support this charity because I feel that the children there who are quite sick deserve a little contribution from us to help them get on their way through having better facilities and better treatment. So for tonight's webinar, our host, Frank Dick, today, thank you, Frank, because we reached out to you in a little bit of a short notice, but I knew that you had the heart in you to do this wonderful cause for us. You've got a wealth of knowledge and information on motivation, and I'm really hoping that you can help us to transform our learners and individuals, to help us to perform better and to give us some, you know, ideas from your life experiences and how we can handle various situations that we may be in within our lives. So I'm going to hand, you know, this webinar over to Frank, and you know, I hope you can inspire us today. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much indeed, and I'll try my hardest. I certainly love this cause. I think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing, and let's hope that that what we do actually enriches the lives of the children that are there, and also the parents, because it must be just as tough for them. So let's go to the first slide. So thank you, Shreya, for organizing this. If we can slip that back up to the first slide, we'll be technology is fantastic. I'm a dinosaur, folks. I really don't understand how this run. So well done. Thanks, Shreya, for getting there. So what is winning? Mr. Dick. Well, what? You know what winning is. You told me. Well, no. Let's go back to the slide. We know what winning is. Winning is being better today than you were yesterday, every day. That's what winning is. So if we can pop back to the slides again and stick with that. Okay, thanks. So we're agreed, I hope, winning is being better today than you were yesterday, every day. Because a lot of people get confused with what winning is. Let's think about the London Marathon. Winning for Mo Farah is being first and maybe even going for a world record. For most people, it's maybe running a faster marathon than they've ever run before. For some, it will be simply finishing the course. And for others, it will be what the sponsorship money they've raised for a worthy cause. So winning is whatever you wish, however you wish to define it. So how do I see life? Well, I see it as there are only two kinds of people out there: mountain people and valley people. Valley people are the ones you bump into at parties, and they start off the sentences the same way every time. I would have, I should have, or I could have. And then you treat to an excuse for why they honestly believe they're not in control of the life they live. Valley people think that change, at the very best, is a threat, and the worst, something you don't want to belong to. So after all, why fix what ain't broke? Valley people think that winning is the same thing as not losing. So for them, a draw is a fantastic result. Valley people proudly wear a t-shirt which says, I will survive. These people, they are losers, but they don't know that they are. On the other hand, there are mountain people. Mountain people decide to take the risk of winning. That sounds like a crazy expression, doesn't it? Because the one we normally hear is the risk of losing. But where's the risk in that? You don't have to practice losing. It can be a complete gift in life. No, taking the risk of winning is for people who look at the horizon and they think, that's not the end. That's only the end of what I can see. It's the start of where I can realize my dreams. Mountain people see change as an opportunity. And for me, opportunity is like the ball in the game. If you got it, use it. If Holly's got it, you support it. And if the opposition has it this time around, you learn from their experience so that when you get the ball next time, you can use it more effectively. Mountain people believe that winning, quite simply, as I said earlier, is being better today than you were yesterday. And they're very proud of their t-shirt, which says, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room. I believe that's what mountain people is, what defines mountain people. And I believe I'm speaking to mountain people this evening. Wherever you are, you're a mountain person. So you're probably thinking to yourself, well, it's your job, Frank, to make sure that that you create certainty when you go out into the arena. But that's not true, folks. The truth, the only truth in life is that the only thing in any arena of life is uncertainty. What a good coach will do is prepare you to turn that uncertainty to your advantage, and as a consequence, for you to achieve what you define as winning. So what does that look like? Well, this was brought home to me big time, this idea of uncertainty, when I saw this piece of video from the Winter Olympics some years ago. If we can just switch it on to the next slide. The key person is the one who's closest to the camera, Stephen Bradbury. He's a lucky guy to be in this competition because he's only there because so many people fell over and got disqualified in the semi-final. Are we okay? In the middle is the guy who's the favorite to win, Apollo Ono. I hope this video runs good. If it's not, I'll just have to talk you through it. Well, the gun goes and immediately our hero zooms to the back of the field. Apollo Ono is the guy on the outside there trying to sneak up. The opposition look at this and they decide this is the way it's going to behave. Because that's what you've got to remember in life, folks. When you're in any challenge, however you behave, the opposition thinks we've got to counter that. But what if you can fool them? I think if we're going to struggle with the videos, we might have to skip these. So as we come up with 5 laps to go, our hero is still dominating the back of the field. Just keep it clicking through. Then we may have to, if there's a problem with the technology, we may have to lose the videos. So there's Apollo Ono again trying to overtake it with 3 laps to go on the outside, because that's where he knew the gap was, not on the inside. There he goes again. Our hero well off the back of the field. At this point, Apollo Ono's imagining the medal around his neck, practicing the victory speech. They all fall over, and who comes through but our hero? He must think it's his birthday. Okay, he was well out of it. So he wins, but did anybody spot where Apollo Ono finished? Unfortunately, the video didn't help us much there. He finished second, having clawed his way across the ice. You see, life doesn't always go the way you want it to in life. But you've got to, whatever the situation is, you must turn that to your advantage. Okay, if we slip to the next slide, please. I think we'll skip the videos if they're going to have problems, folks. I'm going to split this discussion up into what I call sailing the 7 seas. A bit corny but that's what speakers do in life. They try to create corny things like that to help you remember things. We're going to look at clarity, courage, curiosity, care, connection, commitment, and finally, choice. Clarity. Let's have a look at the next slide, please. First question we have to ask ourselves is, why do we wear our team colors? Whether that's the family's team colors, whether it's playing in a team or whatever, whether it's working in a business. Why are you there in the first place? And one of the reasons that I ask myself this question and ask people this question is because of the next three questions that come after them. What do you live for? I don't know how many of you ever watched the video, the movie, The Devil Wears Prada. But in it, Andy's ripped apart by Miranda. She goes to speak to her pal, Nigel, and she's complaining about things and so on. He turns around to her, he says, you know, I know 100 people who would die to work here. You only deign to work here. My goodness, what a miserable life that has to be. Fancy turning up to work each day. Fancy doing what you do because you just feel obliged to do it. You're deigned to do it. You must really, I'm not, the idea I got about what we live for also came from an interview that was in the Harvard Business Review in October 2013. It was Alex Ferguson being interviewed, and the lady who was interviewing him asked him 10 questions about how they managed to achieve sustainable success. And his immediate line was, it's the club, the badge you wear, that comes first. Your team can lose this week, but it can win next week. But whatever happens out there, whatever you do, it must make the badge stronger. Now there's another line on that, of course, is some people would say we have to die for things. Well, George S. Patton saw it another way when he spoke to his troops and said, you know, it's not your job to die for your country. It's your job to live for your country and make the other guy die for his. So what I'm trying to say is it's important that you associate why you wear your team colors. Why are you there? There's a purpose that's not just about earning the money. You have to belong to what it is that you're trying to achieve, and that has to belong to you. The next bit of it is, what do we fight for? Well, listen, results in life are things over which we do not have total control. The only thing you have total control over is your performance. And that's what you look to in life, how you performed out there. If you deal with that, you will get, ultimately, the result will deal with itself. And finally, what do we stand for? You've got to have values in life. And your values in life are not things that you simply put into a little card like you see right there. They're things that you live. They should be, I believe you should be able at the end of each week in life to look over the week and say, what did I do this week to address each of these values? Otherwise, why are they there in the first place? So let's move on. Next slide, please. I like this idea here. When I started working with one of the international rugby teams a few years ago, I asked them what they wanted to do. And they said they wanted to win the Rugby World Cup. And I said, what does that look like? I said, what do you mean? Well, what do you have to do to win the Rugby World Cup? Well, we'd better be better than the All Blacks and the Springboks. I said, that's not a good enough answer, because what you're doing is making this mistake of looking at what excellence is like today, and trying to be better than that. When you come into really big endeavors in life, you must look at what excellence will be like tomorrow, what it will be like in this particular instance 4 years ahead, and then work out how can you be better than that. And that's why I like General Duhay's quote: "Victory smiles upon those who anticipate the changes in the character of war, not those who wait to adapt themselves after the changes occur." Next slide, please. The way I see it is, when you've set your major goal in life, what your dream is, why we're wearing our team colors, we've still got to take care of business. what happens this week, what happens next week. But in doing so, I see these as milestones in life. The milestones matter to you in your journey, provided what you learn from each helps you achieve the long-term goal. Most of us in life have got to have this sense of double vision. Things will not always go as well as they should do today and tomorrow. You're trying to achieve a goal that's sometime ahead. Whatever happens with the result today, what did you learn from it to make sure that you've contributed to success tomorrow? Next slide, please. We come to courage now. I've had a look at clarity. What is courage? Whenever I work with a new person, whether it's an athlete or a coach or a teacher or a parent coming to ask me for a little bit of advice, I always ask these three questions. What do you want? Or as the Spice Girls would say, what do you really, really want? Secondly, how much does it cost? And I'm not talking about economics here. I'm talking about the sacrifices and so on that you'll have to make. And finally, are you prepared to pay the price? Three very simple questions, maybe tough to answer, but listen, if you're going to go for any worthwhile endeavor, you have to be able to answer all three questions. Next slide, please. When we are moving forward and trying to achieve great things, I believe it's really important that from time to time you break the mold of what you're doing. Organizations like Microsoft, Google, Lego, organizations that I've worked with from time to time, they do this on a regular basis, maybe twice each, sometimes even 3 times a year. They step out of the business, they bring the teams together, and they ask themselves, what could we do better? What could we what could we be in the future? What could we do? What could we be? What are our possibilities? Let's forget what we're doing in the moment. If we didn't do that, how could we achieve great things? It's the time for asking what if and why not. And the way I see that is like Newton's cradle, what you have in front of you right now. Take time to disrupt your thinking. Take yourself out of the meat for everything that's working at the moment, all the routines, take yourself out, disrupt it. When you start doing that, that ball will hit the first one and you start dreaming, having new ideas. Once you had a few of these ideas, you've got to do something about them and you make a decision. Once you've made a decision on which dream to follow, you create a design. Once you create a design, the delivery flies off the other end. But bear in mind, that's going to come back again. And that's why I believe, of course, what's worked today, it can be tempting to think, well, let's be better tomorrow than we were today. But sometimes to create the changes that you need in life, to get to where you want to get to, it's not just about doing things better, it's about doing things differently. Next slide, please. You know, one of the things that I find very difficult in our own culture here in the UK is that we're not very good at candor. Now, you know what I mean by that is being candid, being straight with people, saying it the way it is. You don't have to be cruel, unkind, but you have to be straight with people. If you don't have candor, you don't have honesty. If you don't have honesty, you don't have trust. If you don't have candor, you don't have accountability. Listen, if I think you're getting it wrong, I owe it to you to tell you that and to help you get it right. Why? Because I want you to, I'm a coach. I want you to be the best in the world at who you are. So candor really matters. If it doesn't, I'm not accountable to you. If there's no accountability, folks, there's no respect. And I think if you don't have trust and respect in how we work together, I don't really think we've got anything. So learn to listen. That is clear. Learn to listen, whatever feedback comes to you, and learn constructive candor. Next slide, please. Let's skip this one because let's try it. And if it doesn't work, Kathy Freeman. No, I think this is not, we're going to miss. No, let's skip that. Sorry, the videos are clearly not going to work. Let's jump on to the next one. Okay, we come to curiosity. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Aristides. There's a slight modification in that first slide. What he said was probably the only sustainable competitive advantage you have is the ability to learn faster than the opposition. Well, a good friend of mine, Vin Walsh, who is a cognitive psychologist in the University of London, he said, no, it's more than that, Frankie. Probably the only sustainable competitive advantage you have is the ability to learn better and faster than the opposition. And I believe that learning faster and better about leading change is vital if we're to consistently redefine excellence in our own lives. Next slide, please. And we need, I believe you've got to be, what I'm trying to say is we've got to be ready to learn. And that's not just about attitude. I think you've got to have some kind of a system in your life to do that. And so you'll have your own, and don't wish to impose my ideas on you and insist that you follow them. This is just a suggestion. What you have here is how I approach any situation, whether it's a presentation like this evening, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a pitch for business, whether it's a competition, whether it's training. The 4 R's. First, reason. What's the purpose of this event and why are we doing it? If we don't know that, I don't know why we're involved, right? Secondly, reality. What is it that's to be done to achieve this reason? How is it to be done? And who is involved? Third point, reflection, or some people would say review, because some people say to me, no, reflection is too emotional, Frank. Okay, I'm a bit emotional myself. I like there's a mixture in there of review and reflection. What has been learned? And by the way, by giving by suggesting the 4 R's, in anticipation, we are preparing to learn. After the event, what has been learned? And finally, and really importantly, there must be a response. What will be done better or differently from these lessons we've learned? Next slide, please. And I believe that learning is an active journey. Be a learning magpie in life. Make sure that you constantly seek. I don't care how expert we are in life, how well things are going. Look for other ways to do things, how to be better. Constantly be a learning magpie. Secondly, okay, this is not my quote. This is from Confucius, as I understand it. Although I'm old, but I never met the chap. To teach is to learn twice. So when this, I believe that I find this as a coach important. Every time you go to coach, even if it's a same kind of lesson or session that you've done before, by explaining it to people, by trying to teach people, it actually embeds your learning and also questions from time to time what you do, what you have learned. And finally, of course, may I encourage you all to have what I call hot and cold debriefs. Not my idea. This comes from the military, actually. But from my point of view, if an athlete's been out there in the arena and competed, I want to have a conversation with them immediately that they come out of the situation, with their heart's still pounding, they've got sweat on their brow. I want to know how they felt out there, what was happening, how was it happening, what were they thinking? Because at that point, there's nothing else other than honesty, because there's no time for people to think of an idea that I would like to hear or an explanation that I'd like to hear. They don't have enough time to do that. They'll be honest with me. Once I've got that information, once you've got all the analytics, then you do the cold debrief. You need both of these things. And may I recommend this to you after you have any event in life, whether it's, again, business meetings, whether it's a pitch for business, whether it's you trying to sell something, just make sure that immediately afterwards, you do a form of debrief to learn from that event. There's no point of having the event if all you look at is the result. learn from it. Next slide, please. And the other side of that is, and you might say, well, what's this got to do with learning, Frank? Preparation is everything. When you prepare for a meeting, when you prepare for an evening like this and so on, make sure that you test your preparation. Now, to be fair to my friends who are running the slides and things here, we didn't have enough time to test the videos. In fact, I was changing them at the last minute, so that's my fault, folks, and I apologize for that. Preparation is everything. When you do your preparation, make sure you test it. And there are a number of ways that you can do that. There are two things that we do in sport. One's called red teaming, and the other one's called pre-mortems. Pre-mortems also came from the military. Red teaming, you're planning for a competition at the weekend. You've got your strategy all set, but at some point in the week, even when you've practiced all your work, you sit down with people that you've asked. Excuse me, I have to cough here. Sorry, I'm just finishing a cold at the moment. No apologies. The red team is you ask some of your colleagues to think as the other team, what would you do to unpick our strategy, right? You've got your strategy, you've planned it perfectly, but you have to think in advance, if the opposition were really wanting to damage us, how could they really damage our strategy? The other part in this is pre-mortems. The idea of pre-mortems came from the United States SEALs when they were going in to get Osama bin Laden. And what they did as the SEALs at that point is they tried to imagine what could go wrong with their plan. Now, the red team is, what could the other team do to you? The pre-mortem is, what could go wrong with your plan? One of the things that they assessed in advance was, what would they do if the helicopter went down? And one of them went down. So it's important, I believe, in your preparation to test it along these lines. You're going to go in for a bit of business. You're going to go to pitch. You're trying to harvest sponsorship or whatever. What could go wrong with that? Analyze that and try to make sure that you've rehearsed what, if it does go wrong, what you're going to do with it to make it go right. So, next slide, please. When we work with people, when we're coaching them, when we're teaching them, remember remember these lines from Heraclitus. Again, that's 2,000 years ago, and I never met the chap, but I really enjoy this particular quote. No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. When you coach people, when you work with people, even if they are your own children and you're having a conversation, if you see them, when they come back from school today, they're not the same kids that went out in the morning, and you're not the same person. Our life experience is changing us all the time. One of the most important things, I believe, in any relationship, whether it's coaching, teaching, developing people, is we must know our people. We must know everything about them. And we must know what upsets them, what motivates them. But you don't just do that as a one-off, folks. You do it persistently. You go back and examine it again and again. And you get into a habit of asking questions that will give you just a hint of where they are today, as opposed to the last time you met them. Next slide, please. Care. Now, this is a special one for this particular session. I believe that one of the things that's critical if we're going to have a successful life journey is care, not just about other people, but care about ourselves. And I see life's journey as a 3-lane motorway. There's a fast lane, which is your career. There's the middle lane, your families, friends, colleagues, and so on. And there's the inside lane, which is you. Now, you may not have come across people like this, but I've come across people who get into that fast lane. And the only reason they'll ever go in and do something in the middle lane is if somebody is rude enough to push them out the fast lane. Then they get back into the fast lane as quick as they can. And I've met other people who will never go into that inside lane and look after that lane unless they're running out of gas. The truth is, in life, if you have a problem in any of these three lanes, if you don't take care of them all, if one lane goes down, the other two go down too. We often talk about balance in life, but it's really important that you have this picture of these three lanes in yours and make sure that you take care of all three lanes. That inside one, some might say, well, that's all very selfish, Frank. No, it isn't. When you sit in an airplane, and you must have heard this before, whose oxygen mask do they ask you to put on first? Your own. Why? Well, if you're not okay, how can you possibly help other people? So these three lanes are really important. But why are they related? Next slide, please. They're related because I believe our physical, mental, and emotional sides of life, they're all connected. We are bombarded every moment of the day from the stressors from the outside: conflict, travel, lockdown. We've had exercise, health, economics. All of these things are impacting on us, and they're demanding some form of adaptation energy to deal with them. Now, the way I see stress, folks, is this. Inside us, we've got cells. The cells dictate the health of the organs, dictate the health of the fluids, dictate the health of the cells. When these stressors come in, that gets faster, and that's called stress. What we don't want, of course, is distress. Remember, if we don't have some level of stress in our life, we don't learn how to adapt to it. So it's quite a good thing. Some people would think, well, come on, Frank, these things are not related. I won't be able to see you all responding to this, but just think very quickly. Have you ever had an emotional episode in your life, a trauma of some kind, but you're aware that it affected you physically? Yeah, of course. We know that's true. You see, the bit is that the adaptation energy we need is like a big jug, but it's the same jug for whether it's mental, emotional, physical. Somebody was saying to me a few days ago, Frank, you've had a cold, you should be resting. And I said, I am resting. I'm just working on my projects and so on at a desk. But that's emotional and mental energy, and that's sapping that big jug. We have to learn that mental, emotional, and physical stressors are related. They are cumulative. And if we don't take care of them, we'll be in trouble. Next slide, please. And this is why the good news, this is actually the good news, folks, we can adapt to stress. You see, imagine that zero line there as where you are at the moment. And I apply a stressor. It might be a weight training session. It might be a day at work or whatever, a particularly tough day. And as a consequence, you fatigue. You remove the stressor and the body recovers. But it doesn't just recover to that baseline, it overcompensates. That's the way your body works, folks, trust me. But can you see that you are adapting during the recovery, not during the stress itself? And that's why making sure that you have recovery, rest, and relaxation constantly built into your day is important. A lot of people don't want to have a break until they're fatigued. Trust me, folks, that's ultimately that's too late. There are two times in my life, in a year, when I'm most likely to get a cold or a flu or a bug. The first one is normally the first few days of my summer holiday, when, to be quite honest, I'm not worth a light. You can just wheel me out on the beach, switch on the sun, and leave me there. The other time is normally just before Christmas, or just into Christmas, or just after it, as this cold is telling you right now. Why is that? is because you work flat out relying on adrenaline all the time.
Hello.
Hello? We work flat out relying on adrenaline all the time. And eventually we treat that as if it's our basic fuel, but it's not. It's an emergency fuel. And when you switch it off, your immune system is very, very vulnerable. So please take my advice on this. Look after all three lanes. Bear in mind that our mental, physical, and emotional are connected. And please make sure that you build rest time regularly into your life. We do that with athletes. Athletes have got rest days. Make sure you have one too. Next slide, please. Now, the bit about stress and stressors was best described by in the Yerkes-Dodson law. If any of you have studied physical education or whatever, you'll know this diagram. The two axes are of performance going up and arousal going horizontally. The positive bit of stress, making sure that we get excited, you know, when you've got nerves in your tummy and you want to get things right, you've got a business piece thing coming up, you're getting excited. That up to a point that's very positive, it's raising your performance. But then it comes to the optimal level, where you're stretched but not overstretched. If you keep on with that, instead of the excitement and the adrenaline and so on helping you, it actually pulls you back down again as distress. So please keep that in mind. There's an optimal level of stress out there that we work to help us adapt out there. But what we do not want, coming back to the previous slides, is to put ourselves into such distress because we've not built in optimal recovery. Next slide, please. Now, this is very, I do apologize for this. It looks very complex, but trust me, it's not desperately complex. Yeah, I've adapted this from the mental strength sliding scales of Cherry Evans, who was the chief psychologist with the All Blacks rugby team. When we have fear, or we're trying to tackle something, or life's getting a bit overpowering for us, we become afraid. We're problem distracted, or we're distracted by the problem, and we're overloaded or overwhelmed. Now, you'll remember from your school physiology that when you have fear, you either freeze, you either flee, or you fight. Once fear's in there, the first problem is when you feel free, when you freeze and you feel that life is closing in on you and that you're trapped. Next level is you choose either to fight it or to flee from it. You could get into a mood where you're going to attack or to avoid the threat. It's at this point, when it comes to Cherry Evans' argument, that you must develop this system. Learn, first of all, to step back from it and get context and perspective on the problem that you have. Then step up with a solution, then step in. But take time to do that. Once we get to that point, you face, or you find, you face up to the challenge. You become open-minded to the challenge, and at this point, you're building your trust and belief in your ability to handle the problem. Now you overcome it or overview it. Now you're solution focused, and at this point, we are clear thinking. Now, if I've rushed through a very complicated slide there. If anybody wants to follow up on this and come back to me on it afterwards, my email is I'm open. My email is available to everybody on this call. Please come back to me, and I'll go through that with you and help you with it. Next one. Next, please. Next slide, please. Now we come to connection. There are two aspects to connection. The first one, I haven't gone into detail here, but is one of the greatest things that you can develop in your pursuit of winning in life, whether it's winning, whatever you're defining, however you're defining winning, is can you connect ideas? Leonardo da Vinci, for example, was people feel one of his greatest attributes was connection, that you could create analogy, you could create metaphor. We do that in coaching very often. We say, feel this way or feel that way, or do it like this or do it like that. And you try to create mental pictures and metaphors and similes for people, and that helps them understand the picture. Give them a picture, and that helps to engage them emotionally. But connection in this particular session, I wanted to cover a little bit about teamwork, how we work together. There are three skills you need if we're going to work together and be successful. First of all, is the number on your shirt, your role and your responsibilities. The second is your independent relationships, how you work with others in the team. That's the badge on your shirt. And the third is you and your shirt. Each one of you is unique. I'll come back to that later as a person, and you have gifts that other people in the team don't have. We want these not to be left outside. We want them to be brought to the team to enrich the relationships that we have within it. Next slide. One of the things that I think about when it comes to connection is communication. If you think of a game that we're playing, I've got the ball and I'm passing it to you, the receiver. Right? What I've got to learn in life is that in every case, the receiver has also got a receiver. In a game, we can understand that. But if I'm coaching you on something, if I'm, for example, working with you in business, and I'm providing, you ask me to provide a service or a product, I provide that for you. But I've got to remember to know what you are going to do with it. I've got to understand the needs of the receiver's receiver. Oddly enough, this ends up with the receiver's receiver being our coach and influencer. Because if we can understand the ball that the receiver's receiver wants, I'll give you a far better pass as the receiver. In other words, the idea of communication and so on is not just two-dimensional. In the vision I'm trying to give you here, it is at least three-dimensional. Next slide, please. The other aspect of teams, I picked up this title, Team of Teams, from a book, actually. I think it was Admiral McChrystal or McCraven, one of the two, who was from the SEALs. And he was describing a new approach to warfare and how teams could work together. I use this in a slightly different sense. If, for example, I'm working with, let's say, a rugby team. I know that there's a team of technical coaches, rugby coaches. I know that there's a team of strength and conditioning coaches. I know that there's a team of medicals and paramedics. I know that there's a team of logistics and so on. The way I see it is if we really understand how to work as a team, first of all, I want you to personally be world-class at whatever your role is in the team. As a rugby coach, for example, as in the rugby coaching group, the technical group. Secondly, I want you to be world-class at helping other people in that smaller team to be world-class in their roles. And thirdly, I want you to reach outside your specific smaller team to help other people in their teams be world-class at theirs. In business, that could be administration, sales, marketing, and so on. I don't know if I would catch any of you out on this, but sometimes I ask an organization, let's say the sales team, and I said, can you tell me who writes the checks that go into your bank every month? and there's usually a blank look on people's faces. Well, they're kind of important people, aren't they? I wonder if it would be useful to have a conversation with them sometime. And the people who are responsible for logistics in the business, could the sales staff do well to have a chat with them and ask them, is there anything I can do that can help you be better in your job? I think this is an enriching thing. It's a kind of a three-dimensional thing. But I'd like you to reflect on this idea of developing a team of teams. Next slide, please. Now we come to commitment. This is heavy duty stuff. When I first started working with Eddie Jones, Eddie was in Japan, and he asked me if I had an idea for a very simple model of a strategy to win. And I came up with this. On the left-hand side, the first thing, the fundamental thing is control the controllables. These are the basics. These are there's no point wasting your time on the things you can't control in life. Get the basics right and so on. On this foundation, you move in one of two directions. You look for a winning edge. A young Scottish swimmer years ago was trying to get into the 2012 Olympic Games, 4x100 meters freestyle, and he thought it would be a good idea because in cycling they were talking about marginal gains, kind of like a winning edge. And he thought, I'd better have a chat with these guys to see if I can learn something from them that will make a winning difference for me. And they said to the coach, to the cycling coach, tell me something you do. He said, well, we do lots of things. He said, well, give me an example. He said, well, okay, do you know we put vinegar in the spokes of the wheels? Really? Yeah. What difference does that make? He says, almost nothing. So he left the conversation. After a couple of weeks, this was too much for me. Phoned up the coach again. I don't get it. Why would you do something that does nothing? He says, I didn't say that. I said, almost nothing. Now, can you jump into the next slide, please? Now we can come back to that one. This is the messiest slide you've ever seen in history. Apologize for my quick. The only reason I'm apologizing is it's messy. What I want you to understand is when it comes to human performance, all of these little rectangles, each one of them is almost nothing. If we work on them, it's almost nothing. But if you add them all together, you get a significant something. Now, I don't know what jobs you do, listening in here, but can I ask you this? In your function, if you're working with people, if it's sport, you'll know this stuff back to front. But for other people, it might be worth sometimes breaking your job down into sections like this and finding out just how many almost nothing places there are, so that we can significantly make a change and move forward. Can you go back to the previous slide, please? Error elimination. I remember Ross Brawn working with Ferrari when he was really obsessed with making sure that we reduced the pit stop time. And you know what happens in the pit stops? They stop the car, they jack it up, they take the nuts off, the wheels off, new wheels on, nuts back on again, refuel the car. I can't say it as fast. It used to take them 8 seconds to get that done. Then Ross Brawn worked with his team, trying to eliminate the movement errors and so on, and where things are. And out of that, he got it down to 6 seconds. They no longer refuel the car. But you know the fastest time, you heard how I described the pit stop. The fastest time that Red Bull have got that down to is 3.2 seconds. Sounds almost impossible. But these are, provided you've got the controllables in place, provided you've got brilliant basics in what you do, then you can look for the winning edge and to eliminate errors. When we've got that in place, we look for a mindset agility to change, getting the capacity to leverage the uncertainty to advantage. And out of that, we learn to make right decisions under pressure. And as a consequence, we're consistently performing excellently. Jump 2 slides now, please. Okay, next thing is, well, how do we do that in a team? this is a concept, and I can't remember where it came from, but the idea is to ask people in your team, what is your trademark? I'm not asking you now, everybody who's watching on, but can I just put this to you? What is your trademark? What is it that you bring to your families, to your community, to your business, to any work that you do? What really separates you out? And you know you're really good at this, and it can make a difference. What we do in sport now is try to identify what each player or each athlete's or each coach's trademark is, and use that to create our own winning difference. It's my trademark, it's our winning difference. Please reflect on that one, because for athletes and players, we may do a maximum of 3 per person, and obviously a minimum of 1, to identify what is it you're bringing to the party. Next slide, please. I had a good conversation. A very good friend of mine is Alex Ferguson. We were both in Scotland at the same time. Alex was the manager of Aberdeen, and I happened to be the head coach for track and field in Scotland. And oddly enough, roughly the same time, he came down to Manchester United, and I was the head coach. So we stayed quite friendly. And we have good conversations from time to time. And on one occasion, he said to me, you know, the 2 things that in any endeavor that you've got to be on top of is how you handle failure and how you handle success. I love this from the failure side. I love this quote from Dennis Waitley. Failure should be our teacher, not our undertaker. Failure's delay is not defeat. It's a temporary detour. It's not a dead end. And this is important, folks. Failure is something we avoid only by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. You know, it probably, this may sound strange to you, but actually it's a sign of progress if when we're trying to do something new, people are making mistakes. Why? Because they're trying to change. They're not resorting to the safety of where they used to be. And nobody's trying to make the mistakes. What we need to do with mistakes is 3 things: own up to them, learn from them, and don't repeat them. It's very simple. But this idea of failure being a disaster in life and mistakes, please put that to the back of your mind. If we want to step beyond the line of risk, to take the risk of winning, we will stumble sometimes. But that's not a bad thing, provided we're learning from it and moving on. But then there's success, because I was puzzled with this one. Next slide, please. Because I think Alex said to me, you know, success can derail progress. Now, my mum used to say to me all the time, Frank, success breeds success. That was probably because I wasn't having much success at school, by the way. So she said that to me, and that's how I've gone through most of my life thinking that. But Alex made a great point here. Why do you think success can derail progress, folks? Well, the risk is you can begin to think that that's enough. You can begin to get complacent. When you take the lead in life, when things are going well, that's a time to step up your game, not to pull it back. I always remember Liz McColgan at the 1991 World Championships in Tokyo. It was the 10,000 meters, a huge, really wonderful field of top women 10,000 meters athletes were out there. But she took the lead from the beginning, and lap after lap, she churned it out. And really world-class athletes were going off the track in tears. They just couldn't cope with it. With about 5 laps to go, Derati Tulu, who'd been right behind Liz, took over the lead. But the moment she did it, she slowed the race down. So what was she telling Liz? You can't cope with the lead. Liz waited for about 100 meters, then went past her like a rocket, and that was it, went through, got the gold medal. being in the lead is a challenge in its own. See, up to that point, you can compare yourself with other people, if you like, and think I have to get one place more, one place more, one place more. But the truth is, whether you're in the lead or whether you're following, we still come back to this basic challenge in life. It's our job to improve our own performance, to raise our own performance, to be better today than you were yesterday, every day. Next slide, please. And so to the final, to the home straight, folks. Choice. You know, Albert Camus, the philosopher, existentialist philosopher, said, life is a sum of all our choices. The way I see it, to be quite honest, folks, is I think life is just a series of crossroads. We come to one crossroads after another. And when we come to that crossroads, we can say, let's go, let's quit, or let's wait and see. But whatever decision you make and you move forward, you make that the right decision. There's never any point in life in looking over your shoulder and wondering, should have made a better one back there. Once you're on the road, you look for the next crossroads and the next crossroads and the next crossroads. It's a matter of choice. In the military, they use what they call the OODA loop. You may have come across this already yourselves. Observe, listen, hear, and feel. When you listen, what do you hear? When you look, what do you see? But don't forget the important aspect of the gut feeling when you're out there. Orientate, or if you like, are you reading the game? What's the context? What's the meaning of what you hear and what you see? Next, decide. Make the right decisions. Call for effective outcome. In my world, is in who I'm watching and what I understand about it. What's the coaching style that I may need for this athlete or this team in front of me? And finally, act. Deliver on your decisions. The OODA loop is an important, very simple acronym for you to get your choices right. Next slide, please. I don't know if any of you have heard or read the book, The Last Lecture, or watched the video. Randy Pausch was an outstanding man. He was one of the top animators. He was, in fact, a pioneer in it. Worked with Disney and so on. And out of nowhere, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which gave him 6 months. And at his the Mellon University where he lectured, he was the tradition was that the last lecture before you left the university was open to everybody. And you can imagine a lot of people knew him, students, staff, and so on. The place was absolutely jam-packed. His young wife and his very young children were sat in the front row. And this was going to be his last lecture. And the last lecture was called Living Your Childhood Dreams. And it's one of the most wonderfully inspiring experiences you will ever have if you listen on. You can pick it up on YouTube if you listen to that all the way through. And one of the things you remember what was going through his mind at this point. He was wanting to say things with his children in front of him that he wouldn't be able to say at a time when they would be old enough to understand later on, but he wanted to say it. Early on, he said, nobody says there's going to be no brick walls out there. He said, but he said this, the brick walls are not there to keep you out. The brick walls are there to give you a chance to show how badly you want something. If I promise you, you might think that's going to be a weepy kind of presentation, but I promise you it's most uplifting. So next slide, please. I mentioned choices. and I mentioned crossroads. And I really love this line from Robert Frost. I personally identify with this, and I know that when this resonates with you, I know this will be, I hope this will be the way that you will see life when you come to these crossroads. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that's made all the difference. It's too easy, folks, to always go the way that other people go, to do the routine. Sometimes, as I mentioned earlier about this idea of disrupting your thinking, sometimes the future is about doing things differently, not just doing them better. And that's the road less traveled. So, next slide. Has it ever occurred to you that in all of time, there's only going to be one of you? There's not a Dolly the sheep out there, folks. Trust me, there isn't. There's only you. Do you realize that you are absolutely unique in all of time? Even in a football team, you can have people wearing the same number on their shirt, but that doesn't make them the same. You are unique. What you bring to the world, nobody else can. What you bring to your family, what you bring to the community, what you bring to your place of work, only you can do that. You know, there's one definition of coaching from John Wooden that I love. And John said, coaching is about taking people from who they are to who they're capable of becoming. I want you to promise me this, that's what you're going to do. That's how you will live your life. Because if you do that, you alone can make your difference, change our world. So the next slide.
So the next slide is a video. Just
Okay.
because there was a technical error, I'm going to try something. I'll stop sharing and we're going to try sharing back.
Okay.
Be a second. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, this is a lesson a teacher gives to his class. And I think it's one of the best lessons I've ever listened to. Good full sound, please.
Apologies for the delays. Just
Okay, good sound.
Can you guys hear the audio?
no.
No?
Yeah, we've got sound there. Can you pick up on the volume? Go back to the start.
Yeah. The volume's full, guys.
No, we're going to think maybe you have to miss it.
Unfortunately, there's like some technical issue coming up now. Really sorry about that.
No, don't worry, folks. Okay, let's go to the last slide then.
Yes, Avik, let's just go to the last slide.
Sorry?
No, it's not audible to us, so let's just go to the last slide.
Okay.
So two questions from me then to just wind up on the presentation. And
Priya, can you go back to sharing yours because mine is
Sorry,
visible.
yes.
okay, if we can
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Very good. Very good.
Okay, so the next slide. Well, two questions then. When it comes to changing the world, if it's not you, then it's who? If it's not now, you're going to do something about it, then when? Okay, my apologies for the technical glitches in there, folks. My fault for not making sure that I got the videos through on time. But it's great job, Shreya. Thank you very much indeed for showing the slides.
And really sorry for not being able to show the video though.
So thank you, Frank. I really appreciate that presentation today. Sorry about the technical errors. The video sizes are obviously quite large, and which means the bandwidth slowed down quite a bit. But I really enjoyed this webinar today because there's been some really great insights. There's some key takeaways that I'm going to be trying to basically embed in my life. Really about breaking the mold, always doing the same thing every day, and just trying to shake it up a bit would be something that I need to start doing. And I really enjoyed your slide about candor, because that's something really passionate too. We are HR because we try to make sure that we are embedding candor in whatever we do. So we want to make sure that we're being honest, we're being trustworthy, we're delivering a quality service is really important to us as an organization, to me. So I know that everyone is going to have some key takeaways from this session, Frank, and those are my key takeaways. Also, just wanted to share the video because from Beth and Constance from Imperial Charities, because we need to just remember that this is a charitable cause webinar, and just so everyone knows that all the donations will be going towards this charity, and we are matching the donations. So sadly they couldn't join this evening, but if you can share the video, Shreya, that'd be helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we're from Imperial Health Charity.
Imperial Health Charity is a dedicated charity for Imperial College Healthcare NHS Trust, including St Mary's Hospital in Paddington.
Everything that we do helps our hospitals to achieve more.
We fund major redevelopments and equipment, manage a vibrant art collection, and have an amazing network of volunteers.
Each year, more than 15,000 children are admitted to St Mary's Hospital to receive a wide range of specialist and general care, including paediatric oncology and bone marrow transplants.
St Mary's Hospital is also home to one of London's 4 major trauma centres, where children with serious injuries are rushed to receive life-saving treatment.
In 2018, we created the St Mary's Children's Fund to support our remarkable NHS staff, children and their families.
Since being established, St Mary's Children's Fund has funded important projects for our young patients, including the art and music therapy programmes.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, we adapted to new hospital restrictions by funding play and sensory equipment to encourage solo and interactive play.
We also introduced a range of virtual activities for children separated from their loved ones, including magicians, storytellers and musicians.
Every donation that we receive will make a difference to the children and young people receiving treatment at St Mary's.
Thank you so much for joining this event in aid of St Mary's Children's Fund and helping children at St Mary's to have the best possible hospital experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on that note, thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Frank, for taking the time out to deliver this wonderful webinar. Thank you. And hope everyone enjoyed it, and wishing everyone a great week ahead. Hope you can take one or two of these key takeaways that I have and try to embed it into your lives, and have a great weekend. Thank you. Any last words, Frank? But did you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm quite happy to take questions now, but also if people want to follow up on any of the items, get in touch with me at fwd.coaching@btinternet.com, or maybe you can show that. But if there are any questions around now,
could we share that email address on the chat, please, guys? Thank you.
Sure.
Any questions at the moment?
Any questions?
Frank, I've got one. Since we could not see the speed skating video, I saw it in the presentation myself, and what would be your opinions about it? I could see like the last Australian player who won at the last second. Usually, ideally, a person would have given up or might not have gone till the end to try that much. But then, his dedication and his perseverance till the end of the game made him win the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, very, very often in life, you can think that it's over. We can't we can't win. It's easy to walk away and give in, but you can't. Let me give you another example of this. There's a fight between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. It was the Rumble in the Jungle, the last fight that they had together, and they were both, they were not young boys anymore, but they were as fit as they possibly could be. And these days it was 15 rounds. And from the very outset, they were really knocking the socks off each other. And it came to the end of round 14. Frazier went to his corner, Muhammad Ali went to his corner. And Ali looked up at Angelo Dundee and he said, Coach, that's it. I've had it. If he hits me again, I'm going to die. Let's throw the towel in now. Well, Angelo Dundee must be a very brave guy because he gives Ali a little slap. And then he said to him, don't be stupid. You stand up here and you never know what will happen. And the extraordinary thing is the bell went, the stool was taken out. Angelo Dundee got out of the ring. Ali stood up and walked into the middle of the ring, and Joe Frazier's corner threw the towel in. So you don't know. You have to see it through. You have to go the extra mile. You never know in life. And just being persistent, refusing to quit. You just keep going, and you never know. You can't predict the thing at the end. I say the results of things over which you don't have total control. But you can make your performance count.
Those are really great words to follow and live by. Definitely.
So, any other questions?
Any other?
Thank you, Frank, so much for your time today. And sorry, it's Rekha speaking, by the way. Excuse my voice. So, yeah, I did have a few questions while I was watching it, but having COVID, I've got huge brain fog, so I do apologize. It's not really happening right now. But really, I just wanted to thank you. And, to be honest, I was really looking forward to this webinar, even though I was feeling really ill and I couldn't help but just attend it and, push myself in sitting through it. And yeah, sorry, I'm grateful for your, for that motivation and the inspiration that, you've given me personally and everyone else. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Now, I guess winning for you is going to be getting over this cold or bug that you've got.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being in full form soon.
Yeah, I have to say that there's been some strange bugs this winter that have lasted a little bit longer than they normally do.
Yes, agree. I don't know how I'm the only one with COVID. Everyone else is fine in the house. So yeah, I've just kept my distance.
Yeah. But sorry you got that. I think rest and paracetamol, I guess, is about the only thing that can help you through it.
And a bit of comedy.
Yeah.
Keeping yourself motivated there. Well, thank you, everyone. I guess I wish everyone a lovely weekend if you've got no more questions.
Just a last question before we end it. Since Frank is here, I would definitely love to have his views on this. How would you deal with the things that distract or stop you from your drive that you we can be dedicated to keep going, but there could be external factors that might get in the middle of that. How do you keep yourself on track?
Well, first of all, the primary thing from the very beginning in the presentation was it's about your performance. You concentrate on that, what you can do. The other part I mentioned very early on is that please don't get your brain into to try to deal with things that you can't deal with, right? It's soul destroying that. I mean, you can control the controllables. You concentrate on that. If what you're doing doesn't happen to be working, again, do this idea of step back, step in, and step up as part of that. Get a sense of perspective. Find out if you're really seeing things in the right context.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is that it's how you perform, how you've prepared for that. Well, I know it probably it's too soon after the presentation, but I'm quite happy for you all to have the presentation. I mean, I hope that's possible. If people want to have all these slides, I'm not very precious with these things. If you take the videos out, because they're not any use anymore. But as far as the slides are concerned, please have access to them. And if any questions come out of that, then send them to me.
Definitely. We'll make sure to share the slides, and whatever we can make out of it, we'll definitely make sure to share those, because there are so many people who are asking for the recording of this meeting.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Somebody was asking about...
Yeah, they missed out on these lovely videos, Frank. That's what it is. Those videos we talked about, the Al Capone one and the other person, Kevin Spacey video that we discussed. We missed out on that.
Well, somebody was asking about social media then.
Mm-hmm.
Social media on WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you're interested in following on the Twitter account, what I do at the end of each evening, and I haven't done this evening's one yet, I'm going to have to do that. At the end of each evening, I put in a tweet that I think is a kind of a coaching point. What I've learned from that particular day and what I want to share. And I've been doing that for the best part of 5 years now, every night. So there's quite a few of them out there. But if you go to Twitter and you scan through, I'm pretty sure you'll find some things in there that hopefully will either connect with this evening or help you. Okay.
Well, thank you again, Frank. We won't keep you much longer because I know it's a late evening for everyone. And I wanted to wish everyone a wonderful weekend and to take on board some of the lovely quotes that you've given us and some of the great advice as well. I really appreciate you doing this for We Are HR and for St Mary's NHS Trust. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Natasha, and hope everybody has a nice weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
lovely
Thank you so
weekend.
much. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks, folks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.